So yeah, sat with Emily. Got a new podcast coming out, Togetherness, next year, but we thought it'd be a good idea to do a 2020 life lessons podcast. I mean, this year's been a little bit rubbish, to say the least. So yeah, we thought we'd discuss it, but actually focus on the positives. How are you feeling, Emily?
Glad that 2020 is going to be over, to be honest. I'm not too optimistic of the next year, but it's just nice to be closing a chapter, I think.
Most definitely. I think we can all, give a clap to 2020 ending. Right, yeah, that's enough with the sound effects. Anyway, we're talking to James, who's a peer mentor and wellbeing coach for the NHS, and to Luke, who's owner and founder of the Stress Sessions podcast, which I will also be featuring on in the new year when it comes out. So yeah, some really interesting topics to talk about. And we've got a few hours until the new year is finally here, and we can wave goodbye to 2020. So without further ado, let's go. So thank you so much for joining, Luke and James. Luke, you're from the Stress Sessions podcast, and James, you're a peer mentor as well, who you do a lot of mindfulness training, wellbeing, coaching. Tell us a bit about yourselves. Introduce yourselves.
I'll let you go first, James.
There we go, yeah. I'm still getting used to these.
No worries. My name's James Keenan. I am a peer support worker and peer trainer for the South Eastern Trust, which is part of the NHS. And through that, I am assisting those persons in mental health recovery, basically to self-manage their own mental health and well-being. And to be able to give them the opportunity to be able to enhance their lives by having hope, taking control, and finding those opportunities out there. For anybody who wants to get on into a stable, a stable position, and it's basically. It's very difficult to explain in very little words, because usually I have a huge speech in my head when someone says to me, what exactly do you do? But it's basically I'm there to provide that training and support anyway to individuals to self-manage their mental health. But then on the other side of that, I am a mindfulness teacher, mental health and wellbeing coach. So basically guiding people through their mental health journey, and also in that coaching category, it's not just about the mental health, but it is of course about the actual overall well-being. So that's everything from your physical health to your mental health.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Luke, the Stress Sessions, I was lucky enough to join you. Was it a couple of months ago now, wasn't it? It was what?
Yeah, I think it's about a month ago or so now. I think it was. Yeah, it seems
flying.
Ages ago. To be fair though, I think this whole year is just merged into one. It's 1 year obviously, but it just feels like it's been the same month repeated over and over again. So it's just a bit weird. But yeah, I'm Luke Clark. I'm from the Stress Sessions podcast, and the stress sessions is basically, well, it was originally me just telling my mental health story of having anxiety and depression, and it's kind of developed further into talking to people like yourselves about their mental health stories and how we can collaborate and help one another and other people with mental health issues to kind of get the help they need and just have other people to speak to, because I think the key thing with mental ill health is just talking and getting the word out there and just having the freedom to speak about it without kind of any embarrassment or stigmas going on. And I've throughout this whole process, I've been doing this for about it's 6 months today actually. So
Oh wow.
I've just learned that talking is the key thing, and the more people that we can get to speak about their mental health, the kind of better it's going to become. The stigmas are going to be defeated, and the world will be a happier place, I think, at the end of the day. So yeah.
No, definitely, and you both do such amazing work. James, we connected on Twitter, and your positive messages that you put out. You do a lot of work, really helping, inspiring others, and Luke the same. I mean, James, you've probably been massively busy this year due to the pandemic and how much change and uncertainty, and it's just been mentally exhausting. I bet that's had such a profound impact on you and the work you do as well.
Absolutely, Joe. The thing is, you're trying to meet the expectations of your work before the actual pandemic. So you work to a very high standard before all the pandemic, but when this all came about and the country went into lockdown, and it seemed very unreal, and straight away the intensity of mental health, and for me trying to deliver training on mental health, it became so challenging, so much so. For instance, the trying to connect with people on Zoom. I never worked on Zoom before until this pandemic, and the first few months of delivering training, it actually caused me more anxiety than it would do on a face-to-face basis if I was delivering training. So yeah, I mean the numbers have been absolutely huge. The rise in mental health uh, is on the up, and it's quite sad. But it's just one of those things now that we have to grow to accept that we all do have mental health, and it's something that has to be recognised, and everybody needs to take it serious, and not just on the aspect of having. For instance, I hate that stigma that people say mental health problems. You have mental health problems, and I hate that word problems, because problems is associated with a stigma, and and at the end of the day, it's an illness, it's a condition, and so I think just trying to get people to recognize the rights and the positives rather than the wrongs and the negatives. So with having the mental health mental health illness, then yes, fair enough. It's a process, and it can be managed all in all with the right tools and techniques, and of course the patience and being resilient and that. But with the stigma that's going about, and it's quite sad, even today, and I mean the state the society's in at the minute, um, with the pandemic, and that you think people be more open, and try and uh, be more open and try to accept that mental health is a reality for us all, um, and it, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating when you have people who are generally suffering, and there's people out there who are saying, "Oh, mental health this and mental health that," and it's very tough, and it's not being looked at properly and it's hard to manage. But people don't understand what it's like to have mental health unless you've experienced it themselves. So being able to hold that mental health experience and being able to relate to other people, it does somehow make it's a strength in a way, because
Definitely.
it makes you part of someone else. It being part of someone else's journey, and that's so in turn. So when you're in that mind frame, it's very easy to let it run away with yourself, and because you have if you haven't a lived experience and someone who doesn't, and with the whole stigma process, it's very hard to relate to people like that, and especially in this time that we're finding ourselves in, it's extremely challenging. It is, and people, I think, just people really need to understand more, definitely understand more about mental health, and not even about going into conditions and illnesses, but they actually talk about, well, like we small things like being kind and self-care, and all those wee things all add up, and it makes a huge impact, and that's something I've learned.
And I think this year, I mean, that's that. Like you said, the awareness. Emily also talk. You can come into this and add your thoughts as well. I'm conscious I'm doing all the talking, but I mean, Luke, awareness is a lot about what you do. You talk to so many people and the understanding, and I think, despite what a tough year it's been, one of the great things that has really come out from this year is the awareness of we all have mental health, but how mental illness is such a big thing, and mental health is something that is a priority. We need to look after it, and self-care is such a necessity. I mean, Luke, you've spoken to a lot of people throughout this as well. Like, what sort of things have cropped up for other people? What have they struggled with, and what's been your outlook from all of this?
I think leading on from what James has just said, I think it is a massive awareness piece that what we're all trying to do, I think. But from what James just said, it's a massive educational piece for people as well. So I've recently just had mental health first aider training, and that was a real eye opener for me, because I'm just coming at it from a kind of anxiety and depression perspective. I don't know about other mental illnesses, and I said at the start of this podcast that it was mental health problems, and I think, again, it's an educational piece of learning stuff personally, but then also educating other people with the right terminology and letting them know what mental illnesses are out there, because until you know what ones there are, you don't necessarily, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't understand them. And through doing my podcast, it's kind of been a real eye opener of kind of speaking to people with eating disorders, people that have suffered with bipolar, people that are self-harmed, and I've never spoken to anybody that's had an illness like that, and it's just I personally feel honoured that I've now got that kind of knowledge, that I can go and speak to people about those sort of topics. But I think they're topics that everybody should kind of learn about. Sorry, I'll let you jump.
Sorry, I was just saying, okay. Following on from the point of mental health first aid training, I think personally that's something that should be mandatory through workplace, because some people, they do only have their